The gravel crunched under my tires as I turned off the main road, my mind still clouded from my father's funeral. I barely registered the world around me, the weight of grief dulling my senses. But then I saw a black iron gate, freshly welded, gleaming under the late afternoon sun, bolted across the only road to my house. A padlock secured it, and a smug sign hung from the bars, "Saw private HOA access, only saw." I blinked, expecting the absurdity to vanish, but it didn't. My truck idled as I traced the fence line with my eyes, noticing how it cut into my land my family had owned for generations, long before the HOA existed. I stepped out, my boots heavy on the ground, moving slowly, the kind of slow that teeters between laughter and rage. I rattled the lock solid, brand new, installed in broad daylight, right under the county easement signs. 30 feet beyond the gate sat my mailbox, nestled among the community's boxes, now unreachable. Not just for me, but for the mailman and the very people who dared to fence me out. I stood there, hands on hips, when she appeared, Marlene, the HOA president, striding up with a clipboard and a grin that screamed self-appointed royalty. Her oversized sunglasses perched on her nose like she was starring in a bad reality show. "Oh, you noticed the new gate?" she chirped, as if unveiling a neighborhood mascot. I asked her what the hell she thought she was doing. Her smile tightened, but she launched into a rehearsed spiel about the HOA board voting to secure the road for community safety. She tossed around buzzwords: saw jurisdiction, saw traffic patterns, saw unauthorized vehicles, saw, like she'd memorized a legal dictionary. I asked when anyone besides me or the mailman had ever used this road. She faltered, her lips parting, no script ready for that. "Well, the maps are confusing," she said, recovering. "We figured it was better to act now and sort it out later." That's when I knew. This wasn't a mistake. This was entitlement, cloaked in fake concern. She didn't care that the road was mine, she just wanted control. I told her, voice steady but sharp, that this was my family's land, maintained and taxed by us for 50 years, with deeds to prove it. She smirked and said, "Our lawyer will look into it. If it's really yours, you won't mind the proper channels." I didn't reply. I climbed back into my truck and took the 2-mile dirt loop through the pasture to reach my house from the back. Marlene didn't know it, but she just locked her entire neighborhood out of their mail. And I wasn't about to let that slide. That night, I sat on my porch, coffee going cold, stars fading above. I didn't want a screaming match or to torch her gate. I had something better, the truth. By morning, I was at the county clerk's office, pulling maps, deeds, and easements. It took an hour to confirm what I knew: the road was mine, and so was the land under the mailbox station. The HOA had used it for years, assuming it was public, thanks to a handshake deal my grandfather made when the neighborhood was just 3 houses. No one had formalized it because trust used to mean something. Now, it was time to set things straight. By noon, my fence crew was out, installing a second gate just beyond theirs, taller, stronger, with a lock only I could open. I posted my own signs: saw private property. Mailbox access by permission only, saw. Marlene showed up that afternoon, face red, yelling through the bars. She demanded I remove the gate. I told her I'd consider it. The HOA acknowledged my rights and paid a monthly access fee. She screeched about lawsuits and sheriffs. I waved, turned, and went back to my porch. That evening, HOA residents gathered at the gate, staring at their locked mailboxes. One guy tried climbing over. Another cursed when he realized his check hadn't arrived. Marlene stood among them, spinning excuses, but their glares weren't for me, they were for her. The next morning, a crowd had formed, squinting at the mailboxes like they might unlock themselves. Marlene, sunglasses on, tried to play crisis manager, but her voice cracked under the weight of their frustration. I sipped my coffee, watching from my gate, letting the silence stretch. When she shouted, asking if I'd keep them locked out forever, I walked over, unlocked my gate, and handed her a packet of certified property records. Her face fell as she skimmed the deeds, my family's name bold on every page. Then I dropped the bomb. USPS rules required community mailboxes to be publicly accessible. By locking the road, the HOA had violated federal regulations. Mail delivery was now suspended not because of me, but because the post office wouldn't deliver. A murmur rippled through the crowd. Someone shouted about prescriptions. Another mentioned an overdue mortgage. I locked my gate and walked away. That afternoon, Marlene returned with a locksmith, bold enough to try breaking my lock in front of neighbors. I didn't move from my porch, just called the sheriff. The deputy arrived, plat map in hand, and told her she was trespassing. She argued, but he pointed to the clear property line. The road was mine. The mailboxes were mine. The HOA owned nothing but chaos. That evening, I got an email from Susan, the HOA VYC president, asking to meet without Marlene. We met at the gate. Susan looked drained, admitting the HOA had acted rashly under Marlene's lead. I laid out my terms: a due law 1,000 monthly lease for mailbox access, and a written acknowledgement that the road was mine. Susan nodded, promising to take it to the board. By night, I saw Marlene pacing the fence line, phone to her ear, while VYing her free hand like she was fighting a ghost. The neighborhood was turning on her. Residents pounded on her door, demanding fixes or her resignation. One even printed USPS rules, highlighting her violations. The HOA meeting that week was a circus. People brought lawn chairs and popcorn, a speaker blaring the chaos outside. Marlene tried to control the room, but questions became accusations. A resident waved county records confirming my ownership. Another revealed Marlene ignored warnings during the fence's installation. A vote of no confidence passed, and she slunk out a side door, defeated. A news van arrived the next day, filming the gate and mailboxes, the story now local gossip. Marlene filed a desperate complaint, claiming I was blocking federal mail. The deputy, already familiar, reviewed my documents and grinned, saying he'd had 20 calls supporting me. The HOA's emergency session saw Marlene's final gambit, a proposed easement, fail. A vote suspended her, and the room fell silent, a cold rejection worse than any jeer. Days later, Susan returned with a signed lease. The HOA agreed to my terms, and Marlene's name was gone from the papers. I unlocked the gate daily for mail, earning nods and thanks from residents. One brought banana bread, grateful for his wife's medication. Another just whispered, "Thank you?" But Marlene wasn't done. She filed a lawsuit, claiming emergency access rights. My cousin, a land use attorney, laughed it off. In court, her lawyer's urban zoning arguments flopped against our clear deeds and federal laws. The judge ruled in my favor, dismissing the case and ordering the HOA to pay my fees. The gate stood firm, a new sign reading "Saw Private Road. Access by permission only Saw." Residents waved now, some VYing pies or notes. Marlene faded, rumored to be selling her house. Her sister VY cited, handing me a letter. It wasn't a full apology, but Marlene admitted her overreach, hoping not to be defined by this. I filed it away, closing that chapter. That night, I grilled on my porch, the gate gleaming under the stars. It wasn't just a barrier, it was a line, drawn by truth, guarding land my grandfather cleared. And no one would cross it again without my say.